The New York I arrived in 28 years ago was one of abandoned buildings, battered window shades and blackened shells along the highway. Uptown was boombox, squeegee men, and sneaker wars. Down on the juice, there were shilling sleaze and switchblades for as cheap as $1. Pickpockets, peddlers, and preachers stood shoulder to shoulder with ruddy-faced Irish-American cops, too outnumbered and sweaty to give a goddamn. Back then, 42nd Street was a scabbed vein so pockmarked and contaminated it was practically its own ecosystem. Downtown was squatters' rights, artists, dope dealers, alongside old-school Eastern European grandmothers in headscarves lugging shopping bags up 2nd Avenue. Streetwalkers, bold as peacocks, preened themselves on the cobblestone streets of the West Village, while over around St. Mark's, pale-faced boys in skinny pants and mohawks graffitied shuttered tenement walls and nodded out in Tompkins Square Park. New York City was a city of shadows and ghosts and blocks you didn't dare venture down alone. It was a town that felt lived in, a town with an active working class. Madness and danger were a staple of everyday life, not that it was easy. It was a hustle. It was a dodge and a weave, blindfolded and drunk through a minefield, each new step possibly your last, but man was it alive. An urban landscape so rich in story that words practically rained down off the fire escapes like rust chips and danced their way into my soul in ready-made paragraphs. Being young and Irish in New York, I was bequeathed the added romance of a literary heritage, even if I didn't fully understand it back then. New York is where Irish literature comes to get its passport stamped. As a young writer, I had a dream that one day I would see my name on the spine of a book on a shelf wedged next to Banville and Behan. There was only one small catch. I couldn't write. I could drink, though. Boy, could I drink. So I drank. I worked construction. I fell in love and out of love, and marriages like a man possessed. In the summer of 2006, I was 38 years old, living in a 5th floor walk-up in Hell's Kitchen. I weighed 115 pounds. I was unemployable. I was somehow surviving on a diet of beer, vodka, weed, and cocaine. In my alcoholic madness, I had been stabbed, beaten, jailed, hospitalized. The idea of taking a swan dive off my 5th floor balcony onto 9th Avenue had begun to haunt me as a viable alternative to the chorus of demons that plagued my every waking thought. One night, laying in the dark alone, sipping whiskey, listening to the blare of traffic below my window, I finally understood that this was the place right before death. If something didn't change soon, they would find me here on the floor of this apartment, surrounded by empty bottles. This was the end. It had to be. I moved to a friend's farmhouse upstate and began to write like my life depended upon it. It did. Within a year, I'd sold my drinking memoir to Orangutan to Random House. Over the last 11 years without a drink, I published 3 books, directed 2 of my own plays, saw my name in the New Yorker and the New York Times, took the stage at Lincoln Center to read my own work. I wrote and directed 2 feature movies. I met my wife, and I became a father to a girl and then a boy. I am not rich. I am not a household name author, but I am still writing. In my own roundabout way, I wound up living the very life that I'd always dreamed might be possible. I am an Irish writer in New York.